The guy that's got a man crush on Joe Burrow, and he hates Tua Tagovailoa, Russ Mitchell, welcome back into the game. I hope all is well.
Kicking the tires, lighting the fires. Hey, listen, I got to do a shout-out to the family of my buddy Dave Herr, H-E-R, Dave Herr. Dave's a transplanted Alabama boy who's stuck out here in the desert, and he helps me, plays an integral role in getting me on the radio all over the world. So shout out to an Alabama boy who's stuck far away from home, and he wanted me to say roll tide.
Roll tide, Russ. Roll tide, Russ. Well, maybe he can talk to you about Tua Tagovailoa, man. What's all this, man?
Tua,
crush?
the second best quarterback in the SEC, baby.
You gotta be kidding me, Russ.
First of all, you guys are so funny, man.
We don't like number two. We don't take
strung. You are so highly strung. It's September, man.
I don't care. We
September.
want to be first in the preseason magazine in May and June.
Well, actually, it's more important to be first in the preseason magazine in May than it is in September, because you can leverage that into some really good recruit. Look, Joe Burrow and Tua right now are almost literally neck and neck. And, literally neck and neck. Statistically, it's scary. The only difference is that Joe's been on the road to Austin, Texas. And if Tua had something like that, you'd give the neck. But again, you all are playing the powerhouse Ole Miss Rebels this weekend. So, you can leverage that a long way.
But, Russ, I will tell you, and we've talked to a lot of different analysts, but it's hard to say. And this is one that catches us by surprise. If you go to CFB Stats, and I don't know who runs that website, but they do an incredible job of compiling all the data. You go there and you look at LSU as it's hard to say.
Number one.
Yes.
It's crazy. It is crazy. You have LSU fans right now that are like shell-shocked. They're like walking around going, what is this forward pass thing? What is this? It's funny.
All right.
By the way, do you know what Tua's completion percentage is right now?
I'm going to let you say it because I think it's perfect.
0.777.
That's pretty good.
So if you've ever heard, for those of you who don't gamble, if you go to Vegas and they have the slot machine, 777, that's really, really, really good for making money. So I think that's a very positive omen for Tua and the Bama faithful.
Well, and the good thing is we're getting a little bit of health back. You get Terrell Lewis back on in Tuscaloosa. DJ Dale was a scare. I mean, listen, the entire Bryant-Denny Stadium, when he went down, it went, and so now he's back. He's back practicing. Nick Saban will update us in about an hour, but it's good news that we're sort of trying to get back from a health standpoint. Maybe you'll see a complete football team on Saturday against the Rebels.
Well, you won't need one. I think that this obviously it's a conference game, and conference games are important. It's in division, and you never know. But I think the Golden Eagles have a better offense than what you're going to face from Ole Miss this weekend, which is crazy to say given where Ole Miss was last year. But if you haven't been paying attention to the Land Sharks, and I forgive you if you haven't, but, they lost their star quarterback. They lost pretty much their three best offensive linemen. They lost their wide receivers. So this is a bit of a retooling. And you could be a little disappointed in Rich Rodriguez. I expected, and again, it's a lot of new face guys, but I expected just a little more juice from Rich Rod.
All right, so let's spend some time outside of Alabama and Ole Miss because according to the experts in the desert, it's 37 points. 37 points. This line opened up at like 32. Now it's up to 37 and a half. Excuse me. It's even moved up since I last looked at it. So it's even going up a little bit even more. So let's look around the conference a little bit. Auburn, are you buying this team? I mean, they're 4-0 headed into this game.
You have to buy. It's not just that they're 4-0. And I still think having a rookie quarterback like that, a true freshman, at some point is going to come up and bite you in the butt. But that A&M defense is really good. They're a solid run defense. a decent pass defense. It's, arguably the second best defense right now in the SEC. And I was impressed. I was impressed. Again, they were, other than the reverse, they weren't able to get it run. The other thing I'm impressed with is Nix. He's not playing like a freshman quarterback. He looks poised. And the other thing is he looks poised. He's going through his progressions well. And he seems to be, and again, it's early. The kid's only played 4 games. But he seems to get better as the game goes along. And if you're an Auburn fan, that should make you smile.
So do you think this team can be a true SEC West contender, or is this just – okay.
Yeah, I think when they go – I think they play LSU 2 weeks before LSU plays y'all.
Dead on the money, yes.
I think that's going to be a really exciting game. I think LSU has Florida. They get 2 weeks off. They play Auburn. They get 2 weeks off, and then they play you. I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so LSU's got a bye week this week, Utah State, Florida, at Mississippi State, Auburn, bye week, Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah, that worked out well for the Tigers.
Yeah, they get that done. And so do we. We get a bye week prepare for LSU too. So we got a pretty manageable schedule because that Texas A&M road trip doesn't seem as bad as it did in August.
Hey, listen, it's actually, you know what? I would rethink that.
Why?
I think A&M's going to get better and better as the year goes along. The issues they have right now, their run defense is pretty stout. The problem is they're not able to run the ball. Right now they can't run the ball. I think they only had 50 yards rushing against Auburn, and Auburn's got a very good run defense. We talked about that last week. We expected that neither team would run the ball very well. Auburn used a trick play again to get a big chunk of their yards. But if A&M can't get their running offense going, but I think they will. I think by the time you play them, that rushing offense will be better.
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher, that's a lot of money to invest to look at a bad football. That was a bad coach.
Dude, that schedule is – well, yes, you're right. The first half of the Clemson game was very disappointing. The first half of the Auburn game was very disappointing. It's not like he's starting a freshman quarterback. Mom's been around for a long time, right? He beat out Starkel, who just threw 5 interceptions against San Jose State. But, I expected more, and they just are getting slow starts. But that defense is a solid defense.
All right. Let's go to the program that we have spent a lot of time, because when you have players that just continue walking out of the program, 3 other players leaving Tennessee today.
Tennessee.
What do you think about what's happening there in Knoxville?
Well, these things take on a life of their own and they start to spin out of control. I actually have a lot of stuff that I can tell you offline. We can't talk about it on the air, not yet. But,
so
I think
can I call you at 6:15?
Yeah, I think Pruitt's situation is getting a little tenuous. The guy I'm really worried about right now is Muschamp. And to me, the game this weekend, the game of the weekend is Kentucky versus South Carolina. Because I think if South Carolina doesn't win that game, struggled to beat Kentucky recently. And if they don't win that game, you look at their schedule, is at Tennessee an absolute guarantee for South Carolina? No. Is Vandy's playing good football right now? Not elite, but certainly good enough to play against South Carolina. That's not a gimme. Appy State just beat North Carolina. They could beat South Carolina. Then they got Clemson. They got Texas A&M. You look at that schedule, man, and there's a chance that South Carolina doesn't win another game for the rest of the season.
That's crazy.
I know. That's crazy because they've got a lot of talent on that team. And, it's interesting because you were just talking about Tennessee, and the parables of giving up. And I'm not going to say that this team is giving up on Muschamp yet. But, I really want to see how they come out on the field against Kentucky. Because even if they lose, as long as they come out and they play aggressively, then, I'll take them at Tennessee and I'll take them against Vandy. But if they get blown out by an average Kentucky team right now without their starting quarterback Wilson, then, I think that there's a chance Tennessee doesn't win it. that South Carolina doesn't win a game for the rest of the year. And then their only win was, who was that before they played you? It was like Georgia Southern or
Charleston Southern.
Charleston Southern. That's Charleston Southern? What kind of name is that for a school? Of course they're in the South. If that's their only win, Muschamp loses his job.
Wow. I mean, Nick Saban only can take so many analysts back in Tuscaloosa. I mean, you got Urban Meyer.
No. He can take 50 analysts.
Well, okay. I mean, see, Jeremy Pruitt, he'll probably be back down here before the end of October or end of November. Will Muschamp, former Nick Saban guy. I mean, we can only take so many guys down here. I mean,
Muschamp would be in time for the national championship game,
which is good.
And there's a chance Pruitt could show up before Thanksgiving.
He might make Thanksgiving dinner here in T-Town.
He might be in the Saban house for Thanksgiving dinner, which, that whole situation going all the way back to Schiano and, that entire university football program is really, there's a few military terms I could use right now, but they'd probably get you an FCC sanction, so I won't use any of them.
All right, Russ. Best 4 teams in college football that you've seen as we travel out of September going into October. No. Just in general. Just in general.
Yeah.
4 best team, because as I look at this, Russ, the SEC is going to explode this college football playoff thing about 4 best teams because the SEC is dominant right now.
Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia.
Okay.
Which is, Clemson's got to be in there somewhere, but you said 4, and Clemson hasn't looked sharp. And by the way, I've said this for 30-plus years, and I'll say it again. If you play a tough schedule and you emerge victorious, the hardest steel is forged in the hottest fire. And Clemson, their fire is very dim. And, it's difficult to just flick that switch. And whoever comes out of the SEC, whoever wins the SEC this year is going to be, the toughest steel there is. I can tell you that.
Man, I mean, when you look at this upcoming game, I mean, listen, it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, we are setting up for a wonderful October and November in college football.
Can we talk quickly about?
Yeah, sure.
I was a little disappointed with Kirby in that Notre Dame game.
What do you mean? How?
Well, first of all, he's done a magnificent job. I mean, he turned that program, I don't want to say around, but, we talked about it before. In his last 5 years, Mark Richt against teams that were just above 500 was like 5-22. Folks don't realize that. But in the second half of Mark Richt's career at Georgia, we've talked about this on your show, but he's been gone for a long time. So as a way of refresher, he was 5 wins and 22 losses against teams that were just finished the season over 500. So he really struggled to win big games for Georgia. Kirby Smart's changed that around. Recruiting has even taken a step up over where Mark Richt had it. But, when you look at the games that he loses, including, I know they won against Notre Dame, but he's just too timid, I think he's too timid of a coach. And you saw that timeout at the end of the first half that allowed Notre Dame to take another shot at the end zone. You saw not going for it on 4th and 1 late in the 4th when they dominated the whole second half and they're deep in Notre Dame territory. You go for it on 4th and 1, you'll get that. 75, 80% of the time you'll get that, and your defense has been playing well. You get that, you pound that in, you go up by 17, the game is over. And then the timeout at the end of the second half. And it just harkens back to some of the play calling against Alabama in the championship games that I don't think was aggressive enough. If Kirby's going to take that next step, that championship level step, he's going to have to be a little more aggressive.
Hey, listen, you don't have to sit here and convince us that Kirby's smart. I mean, listen, Daddy took him to school in that SEC championship game and
Twice.
that national, in the same calendar year.
Twice.
Yes.
I just think that, and again, we're splitting hairs here, right? But, we're talking about the difference between being really, really good, and winning. And to win, you have to beat Nick Saban, You got to beat like an offense that's playing the way LSU is. You got to beat like a Clemson that was like the Clemson team from last year. That's what you have to be to be the champion. And I just don't think that Kirby Smart is willing to pull that switch.
Russ Mitchell, CFB. Russ Mitchell, CFB. I hope you go in a Baton Rouge coming up. I mean, do you aggravate them as much as you do Tuscaloosa? I mean, like, do you – like, you're making an appearance coming up in a couple of minutes with Matt Moscona. And do you aggravate them? Like, do you take their – like, because you like taking these little LSU jabs, okay? But do you like rub Crimson Tide down?
I upset the corn dogs as much as I upset the gums.
Okay.
But, brother, I just tell the truth.
Well,
if you can handle the truth, then you can handle Russ Mitchell.
Russ Mitchell, CFB, on the Twitter account, collegefootballnews.com, lead SEC college football analyst. Russ Mitchell, CFB. Russ Mitchell, CFB, on the Twitter account. Russ, happy trails, my friend. We always enjoy our conversations.
Ryan, please return Ole Miss in the state that y'all get them this weekend.
Okay. I'll tell Nick Saban that. Thank you, Russ.
All right. Bye.